All right.
5 years ago.
I would like, are we on? I would like to call to order the Board of Library Trustees board meeting for Tuesday, May 21st, 2024. Could I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Burrell is absent. Trustee Bella?
Here.
Trustee Kelly?
Here.
Trustee Meadow?
Here.
Trustee Rule is absent. Trustee Zick?
Here.
President's
Here. Could we please stand for the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any public comment? We do not. We do not. Okay. Before we get started with liaison reports, we have a board member who is not able to be here because of a work commitment. So she is able to join us via Zoom.
She's not on yet.
She's not on yet. Okay. Well, I guess her commitment went a little longer. So
I'll just give you a sign.
give me a sign if you see her. Okay. Do we have liaison reports?
Yeah, very light reports this month from both Friends and Foundation. The Friends said that the next sale is the first weekend in June, and then they will be on summer break until the fall. And the Foundation said they are finalizing scholarship applications for a June announcement, and committees are busy working to prepare for summer work and fall reveals.
Great.
That's everything I have for those two.
Wonderful. Okay. Next on our agenda is approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of April 16, 2024.
I move to approve the board meeting minutes of April 16, 2024.
Can you have a second?
A second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And now we have the approval of the minutes for the committee of the whole meeting, which was May 6, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Moving right along to the review of the financial report ending April 30th, 2024.
Okay, let's see. On the revenue side, there was no real estate tax revenue recognized in the month of April. The library received personal property replacement taxes in the amount of $17,083.78 this month. Copier and printer revenue totaled $4,111.34. Our meeting room fees were $575. Lost item charges totaled $1,155.57. April interest income was $31,570.90. Other income was $1,705.90, and that includes $119.49 of unclaimed property recovered from the Illinois State Treasurer's Office. Our revenue collected for vehicle stickers totaled $296. Our Makerspace miscellaneous revenue was $427.06, and our Makerspace rental revenue was $625. The total revenue collected in April was $57,646.02. On the expense side, 33% of the fiscal year has lapsed, and we have expensed 32% of our total operating budget. The favorable variance to date is $153,970, and 15% of our total annual capital budget has been expensed as of April.
Does anyone have any questions? All right, moving on to the check register.
Okay, and we had a couple of checks here to designate questions on. On page 5, check 102440, quick delivery service in the amount of $1,122.57. That is for a pickup and delivery service between the library, the senior center, schools, and various book drop locations. They recover our items for us and bring them back to the library. On page 15, check 102394, Illinois Heartland Library System in the amount of $731.71. That is for our Easy Proxy software renewal that facilitates secure, reliable access to e-resources. It's the software that interfaces between our e-resources and our library system to authenticate users. The product is a small portion of the $17,604.30 total paid to the vendor this month. And you can see detail on that on page 50 for 1 quarter's worth of OCLC shared technology services. And then on page 17, check 102338 to Altifer Industries for $2,611.19. That is for generator repair performed as a preventative measure to head off items that could cause a generator to either not start or to fail while running. We take issues with the generator very seriously, as it is a critical system. The repair was not due to an ongoing issue or concern. It was just ongoing maintenance.
Do we do that every year?
Yeah. That was everything I had for checks. Anybody have any additional questions?
And I move we approve the accounts payable check register for the Arlington Heights Memorial Library for April 30th, 2024 in the amount of $1,324,527.53.
Second.
Have a roll call, please.
Trustee Miller,
Yes.
trustee Kelly,
Aye.
trustee Meadow,
Yes.
trustee Rule. Aye. Trustee Zick,
Yes.
President Smith.
Aye. All right, we have a board member who was unable to be here in person tonight because of a work commitment. So I would like to make a motion that trustee Burrell be able to join and be a full participant in our meeting tonight.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hello, Jennifer.
Hello, can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. All right. Well, you got here just in time to hear Mike's executive director's report.
All right. So a lot of good stuff happening last month. I will highlight, I always try to pick a few things to highlight out of this report, and it's getting more and more difficult to pare it down to things. So if you want to highlight something that I don't highlight, please speak up. So on the first page, Arlington Heights marvels at solar eclipse viewing party. Wonder and awe filled North School Park on Monday, April 8th, as close to 700 people joined in the library's solar eclipse viewing party and witnessed a rare celestial event together, the moon passing between the sun and the earth, blocking the sun's light. The event, presented in partnership with the Arlington Heights Park District, quickly took on a party-like atmosphere. Blankets and chairs filled the lawn, and many brought picnics and refreshments to enjoy as they gazed skyward wearing eclipse glasses. The library distributed 5,150 eclipse glasses in the lead up to the eclipse, thanks in part to funding from a Space Science Institute initiative and from a supply donated by Illinois State Representative Mary Beth Canty.
I can attest to all. Everyone had fun.
Yeah, it's great. In the week leading up to the eclipse, the call center answered 2,400 phone calls, more than double the normal amount, and answered 45 chats. And-
All asking, did you have eclipse?
Then on page 2 there at the bottom, City Support hosted a spring soiree, professional networking event to help connect area providers and to promote upcoming events. The library was honored at the event with an inclusion award for the library's efforts to provide resources, programming, and materials for families and children who receive or are considering therapy services. The Accessibility Support Collection and Our Time Developmental Play Group were specifically mentioned as models of inclusion in library community partnership. On the next page, Eddie, our info services librarian, presented the topic of genealogy to 25 members of the Arlington Heights Rotary Club. Our youth services staff partnered with the Village of Arlington Heights Nursing Division to share stories and highlight library services at their New Moms Support Group. And Nikki and Neil from the Programs and Exhibits Department organized the library's second volunteer fair since the pandemic. Over 180 attendees, ranging from teens to seniors, learned about volunteer opportunities from 25 different community organizations. And then on the bottom there, our youth services staff engaged with over 1,700 students and families at visits and events for preschool through high school students in April. Staff presented story times, provided library user instruction, presented information about cicadas and more, both on and off site. Right, then on page 4, staff members from the Circulation and Youth Services Departments welcome Olive Mary Stitt Elementary students from the World of Work program, which supports the development of students' career awareness, as well as building bridges in the community with both school and community members. The library's Tween Advisory Group participated in the Peace Crane Project, which invites students to fold an origami crane, write a message of peace on its wings, and exchange it with another student somewhere in the world. TAG members folded origami peace cranes to send to the 6th grade class in France and wrote a letter telling the students a little bit about life in Arlington Heights. The pen pals reply arrived from France just in time for the April meeting. And then Emily, our programs and exhibits specialist, led the coordination of resources, book lists, and programs hosted across departments in recognition of Sexual Assault Awareness Month. This includes a training on the bystander effect with the Northwest Center Against Sexual Assault. The presentation included a very productive conversation about what makes people feel unsafe and how we can better be prepared to help cultivate a safe community for all.
I have a question.
Yeah.
With the Kids World of Work, so just I also participated and we had 4 different schools. And I don't know how that all works. Is that because the schools maybe didn't reach out?
I believe the schools place the children where they're interested in working. And Lisa, do you work with them on this at all, or is it?
Yeah, the April ones came in April, there's more came in May. So I think we had all the.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to speak to this at all, Shannon?
I was just gonna add the thing, you just staggered the time to get into it.
It's 1 week.
Yeah, no, I had like 4 weeks. So I couldn't touch it. That makes sense.
Also, as a former PTA president, PTA also helps do that too.
Right, like I know they reach out to me, so I just wasn't sure if that was, like, we should let schools know that you're a host.
Okay, then on the bottom of page 5, just highlighting usage. AARP volunteers completed 582 tax preparations this tax season, which is a 29% increase over last year. Customers picked up 6,682 paper tax forms and printed 4,500 sheets from the self-print station. Additionally, there were 3,260 views on the tax information page on the library's website. We had 342 Arlington Heights residents sign up for a library card last month, which is an increase of 12.5% over the same month last year. The ESL and Literacy Services Office hosted 53 group programs that were attended by 767 people, a slight increase over last month. And the circulation staff searched for 8,138 in-library items on hold and filled 16,241 customer holds, a slight increase over the same month last year. And 31 vehicle stickers were issued, which is a 10% increase from the same month last year. All right, then on page 7, Jay from our Programs and Exhibits department welcomed more than 60 people for a presentation by the University of Illinois Extension, highlighting tips for cleanup and preparation for growing season. Their advice was comprehensive and included not only seasonal tips, but important guidance of what not to do at this time of year. Emily from our Programs and Exhibits department kicked off the 3rd season of garden swaps, now taking place in front of the library's Dutton entrance. The new location proved to be successful, with 63 local gardeners of all skill levels stopping by the tent during the 2-hour swap to share seeds, plants, and stories. The last page, the Maker Place launched their first ever mystery crochet along, where 28 customers created their own mystery crochet creature over the course of a month. The program started with a kickoff session led by crochet teacher Lynn Ann Pearson to teach customers all the necessary techniques to make their creatures. Each week, a new piece of the pattern was sent via a choose your own adventure style quiz written by Allie, our Makerspace advisor. Customers could attend a weekly help session led by Kate, our Makerspace specialist, where they could get assistance on the pattern or just crochet together with fellow makers. The event ended with a celebration where customers took pictures of their complete creatures and received prizes for completing their projects. That is everything. Highlight? Anybody have any questions or?
I actually do.
Yes.
It's actually on the dashboard. So, curious here, I was looking at the liquor place.
Yes.
Page there. Equipment usage parts. curious about that, but the area where we have Andy Sim. And, but you know, I'm just wondering that the numbers are, that's a big area, first of all. It's taking up a lot of this. What is that, the north side of the, I think downstairs, right? But we only have the equipment not being used very much, 13 this year. Is that, are we having like the same type of programs down there? Do we have the same type of push down there? Is it some of the other areas?
Well, we do have programs down there, but I'm guessing, and you know, Dana, I don't know if you want to speak to this, or I can get additional information, but I'm guessing this is equipment that they check out, and the art area has a lot of stuff down there that people can use. I think the Ellison machine they can reserve, and so that might be like the thing that people are using, but people are definitely using the art space. It's just the level or the number of pieces of equipment that we have down there that people can reserve and check out that would show up on this report is far fewer than those other areas, like the sewing machine.
There's not as many things that they can use.
Right, and there's a lot of other things that don't get reserved or checked out that people can use.
So people could
Arts
just- or like come down and use the Cricut.
Yeah, the crickets are- yeah, right.
There is a.
There's a
Yeah.
there's a like.
There's a
teacher-
die cutter
Yeah.
area and,
Yes,
um,
posters.
yeah, there's, you know, and like just little things that you might use to sketch, right? Like you might use them to you know, little armatures and die cutters and just stuff like that. That's like a compass and, you know, sort of those type of materials you wouldn't necessarily need to check. People use to create their poster.
Yeah, we're looking to put some more lighting and some electricity down there so we can host like satellite programs, but that will each require their own plug, so we're working on that in the future. Make sure we can like activate the space and
Yeah, it is
we're
kind of,
working on it.
could have been light down there, but it's kind of dark.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thanks for the explanation.
I'm just, are you thinking like drop down electricity?
Yeah.
Yeah, be retractable. I think that'd be good.
Because then also like if you do something like glue guns or something like that, you have it at each station. Good job. guys. I do have one other question. When we were, I can't remember what it was. I'm trying to go back to my page, but you had a number of like how many holds that staff had to fulfill.
Mhm.
16,241 customer polls. My curiosity on that is, you know, for the like hoopla and stuff like that, is that something the staff has to go in and like activate? Or is that all like part of the program?
No, it's just, that's all self-serve.
So like when you're holding a book on that, it just knows when it's available. and-
Yeah, it checks it out to you and then checks it back.
Right. Okay. I just didn't know if the staff. had to, you know, so
No, these are all.
that number would not be included in this. Okay. Thank you.
I was just gonna say, I know this is something the library has done forever, but I also know that when the librarians come to the schools, it's such a fun, big deal to the students. For my own kids and working in school, especially the younger students, it's really fun when the librarian comes, so that's a big number, 1,700 students. And I also just, you know, really like, the idea that customers said, hey, we don't have a place to put our cane, so we found a place. So that is wonderful. And even like the Porkle, like, oh, I'm colorblind, does something exist that I could use? So I just commend staff for, and even like the craft swap, right? Seeing like produce, people have extra, people need, so facilitating that relationship, I think is really great. So thank you. All right. So, we are. You want
We have
to do the locker?
Yeah,
No.
yeah. So, I would like to invite Shannon and Carmel up to talk a little bit about lockers. So they're just gonna kind of give us a quick overview of the locker that we have put in place and, speak to that a little bit. So, give me 1 minute here, guys, so I share this presentation.
So in the meantime, I'm Shannon. I'm the Community and Circulation Services Manager. Ms. Carmel, she's the Material Handling Supervisor. So we both work in the same department. And we have implemented some wonderful lockers. So as you all know, we're always looking for new innovative ways to get the services to our community. And one of the things we've done now is to add phone lockers. So we noticed that while the number of holds has increased and the number of people placing holds has increased, the services that we have in place now in order to pick up these holds are while we're open. So adding these lockers has given more access to people who maybe have interesting schedules that have changed since the pandemic. So we decided that this would be a good way to meet the needs of the community where they are.
And so conveniently located in the library's parking garage, check out the outside slide doors on the lockers provide accessible storage for your 24/7, 24/7, anytime, any day. Yeah. So for the accessible pickup experience, all users, they have the option to enlarge the button on the touchscreen. And also they can, for those needing a high accessible locker, you select your hold, you can choose 24/7 pickup lockers ADA.
So we soft launched this in February because we wanted to make sure that we had gotten all of the things out of it before we actually rolled it out completely. And then in April, it was the newsletter highlighting it. So some of the fun data that we've discovered in the meantime is pickups for the day of the week. As you can see, for some reason, Tuesdays seems to be the most popular. But the rest of the time it's close. Saturday is close second. And then for the time of the day, it's very interesting that 5 p.m. is the top time to pick up the holds, with 6 a.m. and 8 p.m. being closed.
So after work and before work.
Yeah. And then Gallagher Insurance is the donor who gave us the money to be able to.
So you wanna, let me, bring that. Show,
All right, so we just have a short video, to show you how to.
Picking up items from the library is even easier with the library's 24/7 hold pickup lockers located in the ground level parking garage. When you find something you would like to borrow using the library's website, like Facebook, then log into your library account. Select 24/7 hold lockers as the location for your pickup, and when it's ready, you'll receive an email notification. When you arrive at the locker, scan your library card or input your library card number using the keypad. The locker door with your items will pop open, and after you remove them, they're automatically checked out to your account. Close the locker door. Choose a receipt option. And enjoy the items you've checked out. For more information about the lockers and accessibility options, visit ahml.info/lockers. Library lockers were generously funded by Gallagher Insurance through donations to the Arlington Heights Memorial Library Foundation.
So have any of you used the lockers or have you seen the lockers out there?
Yeah. The signage is great. They look really nice. I think they look terrific. And thank you for this. I think this is terrific. I feel like, is this video on the website? No. I suggested Mike also share it with our generous benefactor because, that it wouldn't exist without them. The signage is great. It's kind of interesting that, so people don't want to do, it's just another option for picking something up at 5 o'clock. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, it seems like it's pretty popular with will enjoy it. And, I think now, especially with Amazon being what it is, people are used to that kind of experience. So it's nice that you think.
Questions? Well, first of all, 6 a.m. to pick up a book. More power to those people. They're doing it. I'm still sleeping at 6. Couple things. So when somebody, if they select the option, I take it if it's too full, let's say all of them being used, it's gonna put them to whenever the next available time is on it. Or they can choose to come in, suppose they want to, and still pick it up. They have that option.
So when we place the folds for lockers, we put it under an in-transit status.
Okay.
So that way nobody's confused to or has to come get it before it's ready. We have yet to have that problem, right, that it hasn't happened yet, that we've had run out of lockers. But if that ever did, it would be the case where it would say in transit, so people would know that it's not getting ready for them. And as those lockers free.
The second question, I know we talked about this originally, and I don't remember the answers. Security, there's a 24/7 in that location. Do we have a camera on that, first of all?
Yeah.
We do? Okay, so I guess that's really the only security thing that we can do. I mean, are there any other concerns? I mean, being down underground, let's say somebody wants to come in at 2 a.m. for somebody they will pick up. We need to make sure, obviously, that person's safe and there's no issue. So I don't know if there's any other thoughts. What we can do.
It's lit and it has a camera covering it. I mean, it's kind of tough outside of that without having police coming through. And police do rounds through there sometimes, but
Do you have a sign under that says under surveillance? You might want to do that, because people may not notice cameras, but.
Yeah.
And they say,
deter them.
yeah.
smile, you're on camera.
Next.
I have a question. So I understand the in-transit part. If I go on and I reserve a book, what is the time frame that would typically make it to the lockers? Like, I don't know if you have like an average or whatever.
So we fill the lockers up 3 times a day. So once, it's in transit, it's on the shop. And like we do morning, afternoon, and evening, and then we put them in the lockers then again.
If someone doesn't pick up, how long does it stay in the locker before you empty it?
Same as the rest of the whole free thing.
People leave.
Very nice, thank
Oh, it's great.
So I'm assuming that if we expand these, the drop down menu would say hold locker, library, hold locker, heritage, hold locker, Camelot. Is that?
Right.
Yeah.
There'd be a whole.
And it'll be interesting to see, but I suspect on the far end of town, they'll be used even more frequently. So try it out. Yeah. Thank you. Right. I just want to make sure, Jen is not muted from our version, is she? Like, if she's on mute, that's her putting herself on mute. Okay, I just didn't want to miss the question or anything from her. Okay. All right, I would like to make a motion that we change the order of the rest of the agenda so that we do new business first and hear from our staff and then end with full business.
So moved.
All in favor? Or
That's
should I
good.
second all in favor?
Hi.
Okay. All right. Very good. So with that said, let's hear about our employee engagement.
Give me 1 minute and so.
You ready? Yeah. Okay, so, we're here today to talk about our 2024 employee engagement survey. The library board, previously decided we will do our survey every other year. That seems to be a really good cadence for us. It works out nicely. And we are very lucky that
the third party administrator that we have help us. This is our second go around with the same one. So there's lots of rich data coming this time, much easier to compare apples to apples. So, I think. So from a high level perspective, this is what our survey looks like. Staff had to have been working here for at least 90 days in order to be invited to participate in the survey. And the survey ran from March 11th to 31st. We had 80% of our staff participate, and there were 50 questions total, with 46 of them being a Likert scale of 1 to 5 and 4 open-ended questions that we received comments from. We had 58 of our participants make comments, and that came to a total of 453 unique comments per made. And yes, my Canadian and Sasha and I read through all of them. So it's been some good reading. But the most exciting part about all of this, and the part I really want to make sure we take a lot of time to focus on here tonight, is the result. So the result is that HML staff came in at 84% positive in terms of how engaged they are with their work. So that is an amazing number. I'm sure some of you are familiar with engagement surveys from your own workplaces, but this is just really, really amazing to have 80% of our staff take the survey and still come in at such a high percent positive. What's even more exciting about that is we jumped 10% from where we were in the 2022 survey. So we were 74% positive, which was still great and still above benchmark, but we've jumped 10 percentage points, and so now we're 12% above the US benchmark. So overall, I think that means we're doing a lot of really good stuff. You know, everybody's got opportunities to do things better or different, but overall, we are doing amazing work here, and I'm really proud of that. So just a really quick rundown about how the survey works is the survey is broken into what we call dimensions. And just a moment. So these are each of the different dimensions, and there are anywhere from 1 to 5 questions that fall under each of these categories. When the results came back, we had 15 dimensions where we came in above the national benchmark, and only 2 where we came in below the national benchmark. For our benchmarking, we use WSA US overall benchmark. There's some of the details around that. And then as far as the results in the action planning, any department that received at least 3 responses received individualized breakouts for their reporting line. And kind of our next steps will be managers will create an action plan about the results. Yeah.
I just want to make sure that you have this up. So departments must have 3 responses to receive individual results. That doesn't mean that they're getting the individual results. That means you're getting their group's results.
Yeah.
So it's still anonymous. That's not getting out.
Yes, that's exactly correct.
So make sure it's.
Okay, so now the fun stuff. So first and foremost, I want to highlight the fact that in 2022, we had 3 specific items that we action planned around, and every single one of those items, the rating went up on everything that was action planned on, which is great. That's exactly what you want to happen. That's why you action plan on. But the thing I want to call out the most is that in 2022, we focused on communication. That was one thing that we said was one of our 2022 opportunities, and we wanted to continue to grow. And that score went up 15%, 15%. That is huge. So we're really excited about that. I think it means we've really made some huge strides in terms of methods of communication, how we're communicating, what we're communicating, so on. So this is kind of the quick snapshot summary of this year of 2024. So it's from a numerical perspective, our strengths here were compensation and benefits, recognition, and performance management. And so I think that's all really exciting things to celebrate. From an opportunities perspective, so opportunities we didn't necessarily choose just based on the number, because there's a variety of things that come into why certain things may have a lower, further from benchmark rating than others. And so we chose things and we're saying, what are the most important for us to focus on as an organization? What supports
our strategic initiatives, where we want to go, what we need to do. And so that is how we ended up choosing communication, reporting of unethical practices, and growth and development as our opportunities that we'll be focused on for moving forward. The communication, I know, I mentioned that jumped exceptionally. We are above benchmark for communication, but we have a really big, there's a lot of people who work here, there's a lot of staff who are part-time. And so communication just has to be a priority in order for people to know what's going on and to feel involved in their work. So we do really think that communication is such a key cornerstone of everything. So that's why we want to make sure that we continue to focus on that no matter what moving forward. So a little bit about action planning, very similar to how we did action planning previously. Every department will complete an action plan, and the department managers are responsible for communicating their individual department breakout results to their team. That's going on right now. And part of how we do that is compare your department to the library overall and to benchmark, and then of course to your own and library scores from 2022. We ask everybody to identify the top strengths and opportunities, same as we just did here. And then we have a really nice online action planning tool that's part of the vendor that we use to administer the survey. And those questions there at the bottom are really the things that we ask everybody to think about when it comes to action planning. We don't want it to just be something to do to check off the box and fill time and space, but it's really what is contributing to our initiatives, to our strategy, etc. And then as far as next steps, so yeah, right now everybody's in the process of reviewing results and identifying strengths and opportunities and sharing the results with the staff. We have asked that all the managers discuss their action plan with their directors or with human resources. And we anticipate the action plans will be completed around July 1st. Once we kind of get that, we'll do another assessment, kind of aggregate what themes are for action planning and go from there. So that's my spiel. What questions do you have?
I have a couple questions. One is I'm wondering if you can share, not tonight, but send out to us what the questions were.
Yes.
I just think that's helpful for the board. And you said communication was one of the things that you targeted to work on from the last survey. What were the other two?
The other two are so survey credibility and future vision.
Okay. All right, so those, if we're not working on them again.
So the interesting thing about that is, and we with the administrative team had quite a discussion about that. A lot of that really ties back to communication. So when you're talking about survey credibility, those are questions like, I believe my manager will make change based on the results of the survey. All the managers made changes based on the results of the survey, but how much did we communicate that? Like, did we tell them, oh, we made this change because, and did we continue to remind them of that over the last, 18 months? Not so much. And we kind of had some conversations around, are we okay? Do we mind it? Kind of, it's a situational answer. But really in a future vision, that talks about this company has a vision. I forget the exact wording, but something about like a vision in the future, I believe in, something like that. And a lot of that is communication as well. We did some reflecting because coming out of COVID, it was a lot of just survival, right? Like we just talked about what we need to get through today and tomorrow. We weren't necessarily talking a lot about the future. But between 2022 and now, we've done a lot more of that. I mean, just, the lockers, for example, is a great example. We've been talking about what's coming down the pipeline, what are things to look forward to. So just naturally, we've had the opportunity to communicate more about things coming in the future. So again, those are things we also feel fall underneath the umbrella of communications.
Okay, thank you.
Always really cool to see that positive number. It's great to see it going up. I think that's a testament to everything that you guys did over. Thank you for all that. Couple questions though. One, and I come from a manufacturing background, so whenever we do these things, the very first question that always comes up, that we focus on the most is safety. making sure that everybody comes, leaves with all the digits and everything. Machines, I get that's a little different here. But do we ever talk about how secure they feel in the building? Are they comfortable, when they're here?
So we did not ask that question specifically this time. The kind of the stock questions that are benchmarked, you can tell they are very much framed towards manufacturing industry oftentimes.
Yep.
So many of them didn't suit us well. I will tell you, there were no comments having to do anything with safety or concerns about safety.
Okay, good. And then the one that stuck out to me, in opportunities was the reporting of unethical practices. That's a new one to me. I have not heard that one come up in all these years of concern. What caused that?
It's a great question. We got to figure that out. So here's the thing to keep in mind. So the ethics dimension includes 3 questions. So overall, in terms of the ethics dimension, we scored 80% favorable. Benchmark is 79. So we're actually 1% above benchmark. But of the 3 questions in there, we had 1 question that reporting about ethical practices that fell a little bit, just a smidge below benchmark. So we're like, we scratched our heads about that too. And so that's why we put it up here. So we want to learn more about that because that's a really important thing, right? We want people to feel that they can talk about stuff that's going on. So yeah, that would be one thing that we are asking questions.
So there's no comments or anything.
There were, of the, how many comments I say there were 400 and some odd? Of the 453 questions, there were 4 that commented on ethics. Most were not specific. Like they didn't, it just said, why can't things be more ethical or something like that, but there was no context around it. So yeah, we're gonna have to do some investigating there and see what we can find out.
Okay.
I just want to mention, in my open mic meetings that I do every month with staff, we're bringing one of those areas that we want to learn more about to the staff and say, let's have a conversation about this. So each month we're going to have a different topic. This month we're talking about advancement. Like, what does advancement mean to our staff? Because we got a couple, comments about advancement. We, saw the score on advancement, and we want to understand, does that mean like going from part-time to full-time, or, through the management, track and stuff like that. So we're diving in a little bit more and going to be talking more with the staff about each of these, areas that we feel like we want to get more information on.
Yeah. Just my thought. It's gonna be a tough one if you want to talk about, unethical practice, that's gonna be a tough one, public meeting.
Sure.
That's more probably kind of like the managers talking with their staff and like figuring out, I don't know how you word that, it's a difficult thing to word. Seems like.
Right, and I don't know that I would communicate it that way, like the title or the title of the question, but maybe more just about open communication and, talking about how, like what are barriers to people feeling comfortable speaking to their supervisor, the manager, or up the chain.
Okay.
So, yeah, so we're still developing.
My thought on that is like, that's challenging because if I feel uncomfortable talking to my manager and my manager is saying, hey, we have an issue here, like I may not, if I already, am I putting it in an anonymous survey, maybe I'm not feeling comfortable to address it with the people who are. So I think that will take some thinking about. And, I don't know if we've ever thought about doing like a follow-up survey or something, I don't know, but.
We do want to survey people out.
Totally.
But no, I think you're exactly right, and I think a lot of it is communication too, in terms of, do people know if they can't talk to their manager, do they know who they can talk to? And making sure people know that information.
I think everything's great, so I don't mean this in a negative way. I think everything is wonderful. I'm just curious what the 2 dimensions below benchmark were, because you just said communication and reporting unethical practices were both above. So it would seem to me they would make it into the opportunities, but apparently those didn't, unless they're related to growth and development.
So it was behavior change, which was below the benchmark by 1%, and the survey credibility, which was behind the low benchmark by 4%. So those are both questions like, my manager made changes based on the last.
Okay.
So again, kind of fall in that communication realm. And we felt they're very, very closely aligned, tied very much with communication. Doesn't it make sense to focus our energy on those? We much rather focus on the things that we don't really understand as much about that we want to learn.
Okay, thank you.
And I asked that question, but also I was curious if there were differences between full-time and part-time employees, because that could be different based on their experience at work, but it sounds like not. And I also think just in this day and age, I mean, this is such great information and every department except for one has the opportunity to see the results. And it's only because the one department only has 2 employees. But I just feel like right now in the world, people are just complaining about everything, including their jobs. So I think scoring this high is a really good thing because oftentimes in surveys, people just complain, which is fair, right? But obviously you got a lot of positive comments. And yeah, I agree. It sounds like the areas, like if they don't think anything's going to happen from the survey, that is making sure the managers know how to communicate. Hey, we just did this because, of the survey or because our community asked us, because you asked us, whatever. So, yeah, I mean, people want to feel heard. Like if you're going to fill out the survey, I want them to do something with it. And to your point, though, if you have some people that say, I feel like only in-house people are selected to move up, and some people say, I feel like we only take from out of the library to get new blood to move up. So that tells you that, okay, you must be doing something right, but you need to explain to them, right? But so I just think that hopefully that action plans can really, it'll be good to see 2 years from now. But in the meantime, did we ask the same questions, the exact same questions last time?
Almost, there were 10 different questions.
So that's interesting too, to see if those same questions, and clearly there's, turnover in 2 years as well. Anyone else?
Pretty cool.
All right, thank you very much. Good information. All right, and now from finance. Should I move or are you gonna
No,
sit
you're
there?
good.
Okay.
You guys have all the schedule in your. Okay. So, item 8 in your packet, I think the schedules are mislabeled as item 7. I just something snuck into the agenda. But we're on.
I got it.
You got it?
Yep.
Okay, great. Okay. So on page 1, which is the summary of financial activities by department, you'll see just a quick snapshot that every department came in under budget in total for the year ended December 31st, 2023, with the exception of security and facilities, which were just slightly over, but that was due entirely to non-controllable personnel costs. So I'll explain that a little more in a second, but just so that you can see overall, and I know you heard some of this during the audit presentation, but overall the results were very, very good. And, the department had just did a really good job being diligent and managing the controllable spending really well. So that's just nice to see. So as an organization, we came in right at $1 million under budget, or 6.3% in our operating budget. So then on pages 2 through 4, those are the same totals, but we've included a different breakout. And this time it's by account rather than department. So here you can see that every major expense category came in underspent in 2023, with the exception of fringes, and we were expecting that. And that small overage is it's on page 2, $22,378, and that's being driven by the medical insurance account. And we knew that was coming, and that was because, if you recall, we had a preliminary number in the 2023 budget from the village. So almost final, not quite final, didn't make it into the budget, but we have added some steps to our budget process. So we're right on track for 2024. So then when we spread that 75,000 overage, that's what's making security and facilities come in just over budget. And that's just simply because those departments didn't have enough other favorability in their salary lines to absorb the other departments did. From like open positions.
Can I have a quick question? So on the social security and Medicare go under, is that just because of the head count? It wasn't where we budgeted at?
Yeah, yes, exactly. So that follows directly the favorability in the salaries line. So if you go up to the very first line on page 2, salaries is under budget from open positions and things. And the social security and Medicare will also be favorable if that's favorable. So then, like I said, in 2024, you'll actually see that medical insurance number just coming absolutely spot on, by department.
Change how we're working with the village?
Yeah, we just added a couple more steps later on in the budget process to just double, triple check that we have the absolute final numbers. And actually in 2024, you'll see every department spot on with the exception of Maker Place would be under budget by $32,400. And that's because the village is not allocating anything to us for the kind of last minute placeholder for just kind of, we weren't sure what we're going to do with Maker Place staffing. So we put a placeholder in the budget. We put money in for salaries and benefits. They that's for the benefits piece because it would go up in the air. So we'll actually come in favorable in that department. And you can always see the departments kind of right at 100% in that expenditure report that we bring every month that Mike talks through. We can look department by department and that will continue all year. But overall salaries and benefits were under budget by approximately 4.7%. And again, that's going to due to open positions throughout the year. And then the remaining operating expenses were favorable by a combined 10.7%. So then pages 5 through 21, the bulk of this packet, include a breakdown of each individual department's line item. So you can it's just more detail, right? So you can see a little more detail, where the first schedule was totals by department, the second was totals by account, and now these are totals by department and account. So it's just slicing and dicing the same exact total information in various ways for whichever way you find it most useful to digest. And then we've added some commentary for any account that came in over or under budget by at least $5,000 and 30%. So if you've had a chance to read through these explanations already, you probably noticed there are a lot of overarching themes this year. In the past, maybe sometimes you'd see a lot of things being impacted by COVID or, kind of some themes, not so many themes, just some sporadic things. And overall, just, I would say significantly fewer variances to even note this time around. But I'll just point out one example on page 12, which is the facilities department. So just an example of one of the things that might pop out. We can see the impact of all the unexpected vehicle problems we had during 2023. So see, we're over budget by $13,663 in the vehicle maintenance account. And that's because the bookmobile's inverter was replaced and its radiator and cooling system needed repairs. The truck needed major suspension repairs. The transit van had to have all of its brake lines and brake system replaced. But the good news is the new truck has arrived. So just this week, that's great news. And staff is trying to purchase the new van as soon as possible. I think Mike is talking internally with staff while our facilities team is looking at what's available for purchase.
The budget number should be 0 next year.
Just a few oil changes.
Yeah, they don't make them like they used to though. Right. But again, the good news is that despite all those challenges, the facilities department was still able to stay under budget in their controllable expenses overall. So they did a great job. So then on page 21, you can find the next schedule, which is a summary of capital expenditures. So similar to the operating fund, this fund also came in under budget for the year by $734,000 or 41.2%. And this was primarily due to much of that chillers and cooling towers project being deferred to 2024, as well as not having to utilize the budgeted funds for the lockers since, as Shannon and Carmel said, those were donated. And then finally, on the last page, page 22, we've included a schedule of the 2023 revenues collected by account. And so overall, we collected more revenue than anticipated last year. Property taxes, including PPRT, so that's those first 4 accounts, taken together, that came in right at 100%. Trustee Zick had asked at the cow about the $62,000 of revenue, that the auditors had reported as, they called it fines in their report, so we looked into it. We call it fees and fines. So that's why I wasn't quite ringing a bell. So really, it's the copier money that we bring in. We call them fees, but in their report, they just lump it all together and call it fines. So, because we don't really charge fines or lost book things, or, it's all that copier money. And we did bump up the budget in 2024 because we are expecting, that to continue. So, so that's what that is. It's the accounts that start with 436 and 442, kind of in the middle of that. And that's 62,000 that they had reported in their report. But the biggest driver for the total favorable variance in the rest of these revenue accounts was that interest line. Again, we've been talking about, we also increased the budget for the revenue for that in 2024, but I've heard that's going to start cooling off here pretty soon. So we'll just kind of continue to adjust accordingly. So that's kind of all I have. Question.
Great job. I asked this question earlier, but I just thought it was kind of interesting. We obviously made so much interest in the account above, but the interest on investments, that's the last page, 461-02. So that's bank interest on.
So that's regular, like bank account interest, and money market accounts where we keep the bulk of our assets, and the village manages kind of that treasury function for us. And then the market value adjustments, there's a small amount collected, and that's for any assets invested in IMET, which is it's a municipal fund that's available for investing for, municipalities and the libraries have access to it too, but we have far less of an invested balance in that account, which is why we have such a low interest number there. It's mostly in our bank accounts and our money market.
So that's an actual dollar amount. That's just not paper, like stocks, you could have a paper increase.
Well, yeah, I think
dollars.
it's an actual dollar, it's recognized revenue. So yeah, actual money to us, yeah. Any questions? I know I asked some in the email. Yeah.
One, okay, so when we look at the, page 1, the operating budget, and then page 21, the capital project. So, we're $1 million under budget, and we're 733,000 under on the capital project. But really, the important one for us really is and I'm stating this at the state of this question. This is really on the operating budget, because that's really based on the income that we're bringing in, because on the capital one, that's all on the transfer.
Yes, correct.
Correct.
So yeah, and our fund balance policy is all worded to keep our operating fund within that certain range. So yes.
Okay. The other question I had, page 7, tuition reimbursement. Now, as much as I always like to save money, that's one of those areas that we don't really care about. And we're really under, under budget. Is kind of feeling that. Apologize, I don't remember the answer, but what's the reason for that?
It's just completely, so the budget is set by board policy, but the reason the actual is so low is just completely variable to dependent upon how many staff are pursuing reimbursement and how many are taking, class courses and coming to us asking for reimbursement of those things. And it's just utilizing it.
We used to have this too, we didn't know, but now we require, our budget starts in July, and they have to submit by spring if they intend to utilize this. So it might be something and then we put it into our budget. So we actually know who is going to, or planning to enroll in the fall, in classes, and then sometimes something comes up, and then they don't, but function or anything, but at least we have a much better handle on things. So maybe that's something you might want to consider, that they have to submit by September or October, their intent.
Yeah, and you might get a much closer actual to budget number that way, but usage wise, that might not change anything. I think advertising it to staff and making sure they know about it and,
Well, it's just so you know what the budget.
yeah,
You know, so you're not budgeting high and guessing.
yeah,
You
that's a
know,
great
and
idea.
then to Greg's concern, you know, it's not being used.
And you just hit my point right there. Does everybody? I think I've asked this question a couple times over the years, and does everybody know?
Yeah.
We do our
Yeah.
best.
Can I just ask Lisa to chime in here, just on how, because I think we do ask them to give it.
So just for the record, this is a board policy and the board decided that that's how much will be budgeted every year. This was before my tenure here, so I don't know the reason why. Probably because it's easier than having to have everybody plan a year in advance, and colleges change their tuition frequently. So, but the policy does say that you should give us as much, there's a specific date, I can't remember, but I think it's like by August or something like that, to let us know. We've been in a very fortunate situation of having a healthy tuition reimbursement line that we don't have to turn people away because they didn't let us know far in advance. And I also have found over the years it ebbs and flows. So we have years where there's tons of people using it and then years where there's just not, because they finished their degree programs. So yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sorry.
Is it in the onboarding and the employee handbook, is it gone over, and is there, a weight limit? I mean, is there like a certain amount of tenure they have to have worked before they're eligible?
1 year.
1 year, okay.
And when we did make that policy change, we upped it to 25,000 and we opened it up to beyond just MLS students. We did see a surge of people getting degrees and stuff. And I think we were at budget or pretty close to it for
Several years.
2 or 3 years in a row. So it definitely worked. I think maybe a lot of, people that were going to get degrees got degrees, and we had, I think, 1 or 2 that did it this last year.
Yeah, right now we currently have 2 enrolled in that last program.
You just made an interesting point, which would preclude me from wanting to reduce it at all, because the flexibility of somebody else that comes up, they say they want to do it, as long as we have money, that it's nice that we can.
And that happens a lot because, we set our budget in August, well, maybe someone doesn't decide they're starting back to school until July of the following year, so they would have had no possible way to tell us.
Yeah. Sure. Okay, thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Thank you. All right. All right, moving on to old business. Let's start with, well, I guess we'll keep it in the order that we're in. The internet access policy.
Okay. So we have a memo here. We did discuss this at the May committee of the whole meeting. Based on that conversation, I did include some additional details about potential filters that we could purchase that would help filter those computer stations, as well as some more detail on the E-rate savings specific to us and the cost for the filtering system. The costs that I have here are we received updated quotes from that. The first year cost instead of 15,000 would be 11,750, and then the annual cost going forward, starting the following year, would be $6,300. So, and I realize my math is not correct.
Say that again.
First year cost was 11,750.
Are you talking for all 3 providers or just for Comcast?
I'm sorry, all the way at the bottom, the projected costs, not the savings.
Oh, okay.
So,
So that's, okay.
Yeah.
Tell me the number.
so that's the equipment that we would have to purchase. It's 11,750 for the first year,
Good.
and then 6,300 each year after.
Less, nice. All right. Thank you.
And then the above that is the E-rate, the potential projected E-rate savings based on our current charges and the 40% discount rate. And the way that rate works, it goes off of the number of students that are eligible for free lunch, and we are at 13% in Arlington Heights, And the, threshold, well, it starts, I think, from 0 to 10% is 20% savings. We're in that next category of 40% savings. Another cost that would be involved, though, is the E-rate consultant. We've got quotes from between $2,000 and $4,000, so I'm estimating higher for that.
Sure, numbers a little different because
Right, so this was just an estimate when I created the memo. We've gotten a quote for the equipment since, so that first year cost will be less than the 15.
gotcha. Okay.
So for purpose of this discussion, I mean, there's a lot in here, and I know that we all, have been really thinking about this. As I see it, we sort of have three options that we could do. We could do nothing and leave the policy as is. We could have the policy that we have, but put screens, like hard screens, on the computers, the adult computers, or we could filter. So those are kind of the three big categories that I think we should discuss.
Yeah, and so if you take either one of those first two options, no changes to the policy would be necessary. But if we do decide to filter, then we did provide a draft of a policy that would include filter.
So yearbook keeper, I mean, we had a conversation about it before. We have more information. I think we probably all, kind of did some of them our own digging. I think we talked through a lot of the issues last time. And now there were a lot of questions about the types of filters. So this was really helpful to realize there's basically 3 different types of filters. So what we do now is the client cloud-based filter. That's what we do in Kids World and the Hub. Correct?
And not necessarily. We do the DNS filter right now for Kids World and the Hub. And that is that we don't turn off for people or anything like that. That's just on. We currently have with our antivirus software, basically that client cloud-based filter that we could turn on. It's a very basic filter. And I did include the text of the category that it blocks. It's adult sexually explicit material, but it's probably a little bit more aggressive than we would like to have here. Obviously we don't want to filter anything that is not explicitly pornography or things that we're talking about here. And so I would recommend that if we were going to filter, that we purchase something that we can be more granular with the filtering. And so in Exhibit B of the memo, there is the list of adult material filtering categories for the web filter that we are considering.
Yes.
I just have a question to better understand the Exhibit A. So we're looking at Exhibit A and Exhibit B, and I think I understand the material, the categories, but how does Exhibit A relate to Exhibit B?
If they're not necessarily related, Exhibit A is the technology or the different types of filters that you can have, and kind of the pros and cons of each. Exhibit B is really just outlining the different categories that if we look at the filter that I'm suggesting that we would have of it.
Okay, and so that's where all of these filters, if whatever choice of all of these categories could fit in as a filtered category. Or the one you're suggesting?
The one I'm suggesting, yeah.
And which, I'm just, so is it in Exhibit A?
It's firewall.
It's a firewall, yeah.
It's a firewall, so it's the B, okay.
I think for this conversation though, instead of I didn't mean to confuse anybody with this stuff. I just wanted to give you that information as to how that's done. If we wanted to talk more about like what we want to see procedurally happen or in the policy to state that, if someone wants that filter taken off, then we'll take it off. And then, our staff will figure out what's the best way to do that would be, because each of these works a little bit differently and has different access. And so You know, if you say that, you know, if we agree that we want to make that filter able to be turned off immediately by the staff that are out there, that might be a different filter than, say, like the DNS filter that, you know, only IT would be able to change, or we don't. turn it off.
Okay. Okay. Think I understand you more.
Yeah.
Text, I
Well,
think.
so what I think that you are saying is that the reason that you are what we decide tonight is not which filter to buy. However, just so that we understand, the firewall filter gives us the most flexibility so that if someone says, I'm doing research for college, I need you to turn this off, we can turn off the computer that they're using. And we can also buy this filter, say like, yeah, we don't want these categories that he asterisks, but you know, there's an art book that has Michelangelo and other, you know, classic art where there's nudity, that wouldn't be filtered.
Right.
Or, you know.
Yeah, it's a level of granularity that you get with like a firewall filter, or like maybe even like the client filter, where the one that we currently have would probably block all of these categories. The one that we could enable, it's not currently enabled. But with the Barracuda, the firewall filter, we can kind of pick and choose what we want. And so like we don't want to block like dating sites that might be considered, you know, adult sites. You know, but we would, of course, child abuse and adult porn would be
Right.
categories. So it's just, it gives a different level of granularity that we wouldn't necessarily have.
That helps, thank you.
Yeah.
So, I do think it's important that we have, if we go the filter route, to have, that option to be able for a customer to come in and request, to have to have the filter lifted. And I do feel that it should be done without question or, you know, needing to prove any sort of, you know, research or anything like that. So that could be done, as you're saying, and it looks like it was kind of written that in the policy that you've provided as an example anyway. And so, yeah, that's just kind of a stipulation. And, you know, I feel that with the asterisk categories, you know, I recognize the First Amendment is, you know, critical and it's a part of ALA. It's a part of the foundation of libraries and access and equal access. As with other, amendments that were established with the Constitution, I feel like times are changing a little bit, and there are some times when governing bodies need to take a look at what is acceptable, what has changed in our environment, who are we looking to protect, what is our role. So I would be comfortable with filtering with these asterisk items or categories. With that recommendation, Mike, that you had mentioned with the filter that does allow for to be able to not be as, you know, the word you decided. Yet with that stipulation that if a customer were to come in and request that removal of the filter, that without question, they would be able to do so.
Right?
Yeah, I'm going like 5 different directions right now. Let me ask a question. I think somebody had said this during the last piece of that typically, I mean, it sounds like there's one gentleman who we have a particular issue with on this. Is that correct?
That's how I understand it from all the staff. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So it's just this one individual. You know, yeah, I've got particular issues with the whole First Amendment thing. You know, we're a government entity, and if it's something that's legal, they should have the right to view it as gross or ridiculous as I think it is that they want to do, is my personal opinion. I always fall back on that. But we have to understand, if we're going to do that, why are we doing this? Because my guess is if it's one individual that we're dealing with, we've had two people complain, and granted, I don't want to belittle, they were both absolutely correct in their frustration and their concern. But what are we doing here? Because if we have this in here that they can turn off for bona fide research and other lawful purposes, well, unfortunately, adult porn is lawful for them to be able to view. And my guess is
Protected. Obscenity is not protected. Depends what your definition of obscenity is.
okay.
If you don't think that's obscene, is it?
Well, but is it lawful though? And that's the thing, and that's the question
Becomes a policy.
that's a question you have to come up with. Is this gentleman just gonna come in and just say, he knows the policy and he's gonna come in and say, hey, you know what, it's something legal to view. And I want you to turn off the filter. So if that is the case, and this gentleman can come in here anytime we do it, so now we're spending money on doing it and doing all this, what are we doing? What are we've got all these other policies as far as the behavior and what they can do. That we can fall back on. It's just, I just want to make sure that we're not having a bit of a knee jerk to a particular situation as ridiculous as it is. You know, how are we going ahead and doing it? How are we going to do this? Now, the whole filter thing, the whole screen filter thing on there, while that's a little cumbersome for staff, I'm actually more in line with that particular one. This gentleman comes in and he pops this stuff up on there, say, hey, sir, we've got issues, with other people seeing this, you've got to put this filter on so you can only see it. If we do go down the site where we're filtering that out, we just have to realize, why are we doing this? Because most likely this guy's going to get around it. And most likely, and as you say in here, it seems like it's still the same thing as when I was first in the discussion, 11, 12 years ago. It doesn't stop everything. And they're still going to be able to get things through. So we just have to understand what's the reason why we're doing this.
I hear you. I wouldn't say it's just one person, though. I'm not sure that that's accurate. I mean, I think it is more than one person. We've had more than 2 complaints. I guess, in our code of conduct, we say we expect our customers to treat all people and property with respect. This includes, but is not limited to, engaging in behaviors in a manner that does not offend, disturb, harass, or threaten the safety of others. I think people, walking by have told us that it offends them and it disturbs them. I feel like it's a proactive way for us to help address the situation. And by putting putting filters in for very specific things, I think that helps staff be able to say, it's done for them. But then if someone says, hey, I'm on computer 12, please take off the filter, they take off the filter, but they don't have to be the one to go to someone and say, oh, someone else has been complaining about you. Can you please put this on? Or, I guess in balance, I feel like a filter is beneficial to most of our customers, including the youngest ones who we're always encouraging to come here. I would err on the side of people that have come and expressed their opinion to us, but really we are adhering, if we were to do this, we're adhering to the Safety Act for children, right? Which we haven't done before, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah, and I don't think that it is a knee-jerk reaction after educating ourselves. I could see, like, when it first came up, it seemed like it was a little contentious, but after educating ourselves and obtaining the information and then talking to Carol and the other library libraries. It's not like we're the forefront of this or trendsetter. We're not the first library to do this. So I think it's an educated decision that I personally think we should do the filters. That's, I'm thinking, because I think that it does protect everyone, including the person who would want the filter off. And it can help us protect that and the staff and the children and other people in the library.
So I'm also, I'm sorry, to cut you off.
No, no.
Okay. I'm also kind of, you know, like I said at the last meeting, like, I don't personally think it's appropriate. I would not, you know, I'm not the person that would ever do something like that. You know, my parents, told me that you don't do things like that in the living room, you do that in the privacy of your own bedroom. At the same rate, I have some very strong concerns. The first is we're using an outside service. We don't know who that company is owned by. We don't know who that CEO is going to be next year. We don't know if they have a particular bent or direction or agenda. We don't know if the filters are going to actually cover everything. There's always a loophole. And really, if we're going to let people just turn it off, what are we protecting? We're protecting someone's ideal, this is a safe place. I'm not going to let my 8-year-old run around Woodfield Mall without, you know, being with them, taking care of them. People need to understand that the library is a public space. And, you know, while I always want to protect my kids and I want to protect my, you know, my fellow neighbors and whatnot, the reality is you can, you know, be in junior high and somebody's got on their phone. Like, this is not, you know, that place. And I don't ever want to be the person who allowed for some sort of loophole in the future to have it be censorship and not just a filter. And that is where I'm really concerned, is that I understand that, like, this is gross. It's being very judgmental. This is my personal opinion. I don't like it. I don't like it any more than anybody else does. But what are the ramifications of what this decision may or may not do in the future? And what are we really, like, to Greg's point, what are we really protecting? We're protecting our, you know, like, I can sleep better at night knowing that my library is safe. Well, no, neither is the grocery store or Woodfield Mall or a park. Like, you gotta, you know, like, we have to have some logic to this, that we need to be taking care of ourselves and keep an eye out for one another. But what are we really filtering or censoring if they can just turn it off? Like, what's the point of this expense?
Carol.
I'm gonna bring up an old argument. So, do the librarians purchase books with this kind of content?
Mhm.
So we have the books that would be considered pornography on our shelves?
Well, we don't have magazines anymore, but we have stuff that could be considered.
Words, but not pictures, right?
True.
Like, or, you know, like Lady Chatterley's Lover or something like that.
Well, that's, I don't call
Yeah.
it pornography.
Well-
That's sexual content is different than pornography. Deviant behavior, etc.
No, like, that's orgy.
So we do have, I mean, we do have some stuff, but not.
But who makes the decisions of what we get and what we don't get?
Yeah.
So there already is a judgment.
Well, I mean, and talking about, I mean, I hadn't thought about like, the company that we buy the filter from, but I mean, we buy a lot from a lot of different vendors. So we're buying,
Barracuda has been around for a long time.
Yeah.
I think that's.
I want to make sure that Jen has a chance to talk. Do you have a comment, Jen?
Yeah, I do actually. So Andy shared a lot of the same questions and concerns that I have. I will also say I talked to staff, including the manager for the digital services desk. And it does sound like it's not like, you know, a ton of people coming in, but yet it's a handful of kind of regulars, I guess you could say. And it sounds like they sort of know that what they're doing is maybe not great. So they will just grab a privacy filter, one of the physical privacy filters, as they go to their computer. I think the other thing that we should remember is like, not everyone has a computer or internet access in their own home. And so, I'm not saying like that makes it okay for them to do this thing, but it sounds like this is one of many things that they do at the library. They're looking at porn and they're also doing banking or what have you. So it does feel very judgy to me, and it also feels a little too adjacent to like book banning for me to judge what someone else is doing or reading. The other thing that I know was a concern was having kids back there. And it sounds like based on the discussions I had with staff that that is pretty rare. And if the kid is back there, they're with a parent. They're never kids just wandering around willy-nilly. So they're with a parent and the parent is like, I need to print something quick or whatever. So to me, the whole kid thing is a non-issue.
Yes, Sarah.
First, I do, I want to be clear. I have not once said any judgment of a person that chooses to look at this. I have not made a statement about that at all. So to be clear, that's not something I am saying. What I do feel after having this information, and talking to a lot of community members, some staff too, just that these categories, and it's adult porn, child abuse, fetish is on there, and then adult searcher links, which would be adult related search engines. Those are specific to what I would be, I would put in the category of comfortable-ish with filtering, especially because it's not, I feel like I'm using logic, and there is not a knee-jerk reaction, in that it's not that I think this has to be a safe place. I feel that there's still a responsibility, and as I said in the initial meeting about this discussion, that there always will be decision makers. And so to Trustee Meadows' point, that there are already people making decisions about selection, and collections. So there will always be, and I think this somewhat utopian idea that there's a neutrality, that there's no neutrality, like even a non-decision is a decision not to make a decision. Mm-hmm. So, and that's where I feel that if, 13-year-olds can access these adults' computers, that just, okay. I think that kids these days, and again, I'm coming from trying to keep the ALA and library advocacy in mind, and that's where I am struggling. And then equally in the mental health field, the kids that I work with that have access to this internet that is wildly beyond what they can even handle, and they can't get it at home necessarily, and that's what's in my mind. So it's not necessarily trying to make the library a safe place. It's thinking, okay, we're inviting kids here. We're seeing more programming, and it's also for staff that uncomfortable conversation, and they have to decide, is that something that I shouldn't be asking? Who's going to ask me? So again, I don't necessarily think there is the perfect answer, but this I feel like is where I can settle, and still not. I wish there was, and it was a very, very clear thing. And but anyway, but a community member brought it to us, and again, we're going to have different opinions, and I do appreciate hearing from everybody. And I just wanted to clarify things since I went first to talk.
Yeah, and I would add to that, that I think I'm being very logical and rational, because I don't really care what someone wants. Like, I don't think it's gross or not gross. Like, whatever you do, you just do you. So I think filtering just is, it takes care of a wider majority of our constituents. And if you want to watch it, you go ahead. You just ask them to turn it on. How long does it take? Do we know yet? If someone were to go ask staff, like, can you?
They can come in and.
So they're not getting mad and leave because you're sitting there for an hour. I think it's kind of a win-win. to filter for the majority of our constituents, and then let people do what they're gonna do. Thank you.
I'd like to clarify, I'm not trying to call anyone who does this gross. I think what you choose to do in your own privacy and whatnot, like, go for it. Let your freak flag fly. I'm all about supporting people and do what you're gonna do. I do think that there's, in my personal opinion, that some of those things should be private. And so it is uncomfortable. I 100% own that. I just, again, my mother part of it wants me to put the filters on, right? But I never want to be in a place where my kids now don't have access when they're adults to content because we put in place something that ends up turning into censorship. And it's kind of like, I remember when No Child Left Behind started. My mom was a teacher and we were all excited because it was, these kids weren't going to get held back. And now it's become this other thing where kids are just shoved through the system and it has to be redone. And so, what starts as a good idea sometimes doesn't end up being a good idea. And I heard from somebody, I don't know if this is true or not, but like Utah put a whole filter in the entire state to ban all that kind of stuff. Well, people figured out the 3 different sites that the Utah state didn't find. And so now it's even more fetish based and more extreme, and people will know to go there. So I don't know how well a filter works. I don't know. And if we're just gonna let people if it is, because my understanding from talking to staff as well, is that it's only, 1 or 2 people, maybe a handful that do this on any kind of regularity. And they're gonna watch this and know that they can turn the filter off. So what's gonna stop them from just doing exactly what they're doing, other than having to say, hey, Mike, turn the filter off? Like, that's not gonna change what's happening.
Well,
Am I wrong?
no,
Yeah, we don't know.
change, but I do think we don't want to be known as the library that allows porn. And clearly, when we did the research, I think we've all talked to a lot of community members and done research. There's a lot of libraries, a lot of our similar libraries do filter, and there's still wonderful libraries. We're talking about a specific situation. I just sometimes the slippery slope. We're not talking about banning books. We have policies for all of that. I think that this time is the right thing to do for our community. I think we are not the first to do it. Other libraries have done it. They haven't been sued. They haven't been overrun. But I also, something Carol said last meeting that I thought about, we don't want to be seen as the library where you can go and watch porn and get that reputation, because the libraries around us don't allow it either. And, I think this is being proactive in a situation. It's not a huge problem here, which we all talked about, and it's been going on forever, which we all talked about. But I think our community has asked us to look at this policy, and there is a Children's Internet Protection Act, and we were not meeting the requirements to get the funding for it. And with putting filters on with the caveat that they can be turned off upon request, we could meet the Children's Internet Protection Act requirements. Yeah.
Would we consider changing our policy regarding the computer usage age? Like, to Sarah's point, mental health is a huge thing, and our kids are susceptible to what they see wherever they find that. But if it's considered an adult area, I don't quite understand why we're not 18 and older section. If it's adult, it should, when we have the kids world. I'm not trying to challenge that. I'm trying to understand why we have that. And maybe that would also help that, there are other places for you 13, 14, 15-year-olds to be. You don't need to be in this area.
I want Mike to answer, if you want to answer that, but just to clarify, I think I might have like narrowed my concern is just for children. And I'm going on a little, again, it's taking my own field, but there are survivors of sexual assault. There are people that have grown up in traumatic situations, experiencing trauma and abuse since childhood. So it is the fact that people walking by, or it's anyone, and they're not going to say anything necessarily. So it's not just children. It's the fact that as a community, just to that point of what those exact asterisk items are. So good question, Andy. I just wanted to clarify too that it's not just that I'm like all about the children. It's just in general. I think the nature of what can be seen by these people that have also, again, that's where I err in the proactive. And if someone wants to watch, that's where we have that filter can be asked to remove without question. So that's still.
Which I guess is my question, is
Sure.
like, if that's still, I decide that's what I want to do, what's going to prevent someone who, perfect example, Nick, yeah, a lot of baggage people carry around with them. That's not going to stop them from seeing it because I have to turn my filter. So I don't, like, that's where I get stuck.
Yeah.
But, what do I want to say about that? I got a couple of things. One is that, certain people will have pause before this. They know that that this may not be the best place to do this. And so therefore, we're just saying, okay, you're gonna have to ask for it. The other thing is, I would have more of a problem restricting areas of the library to our public than I would put filters on, saying, okay, you have to be 18 in order to go into the digital service. But, yeah, I wouldn't like to see that.
And it's not really adult. We don't call it the adult computing area. It's just the general public computing.
Got it. I had heard, and just maybe my layman's terms sort of thing, I've heard that was like the adult computer section. So in my head, like I would never had, I have my own computer, so I don't use it, but I would never expect to see a kid in there, right?
Right. It's really, I mean, we informally refer to it as that, because it's not the kids area, it's not the teen area, it would be considered, kind of the adult area, but.
But if a 13-year-old goes in there, you don't stop.
No.
I think something you said earlier, Carol, has been really kind of, well, you got the right word, but it flipped into my head. You asked about the books and said, well, we're already making that decision. And part of it is kind of like, yeah, I get what she's saying, but I also kind of think it's a little bit different because you're talking about a greater community as opposed to, the rights of one particular person. It's a nuance, I get that. But the thought that kept coming to my head was, okay, to Mike's point, we all know there are books in here that have certain probably sexual acts going on. And I can't think of a better way to put that, but have things like that are going on in the books. All right. If in things that you might be able to see in a graphic point of view, and I know you're saying it's just words, it's not pictures. That's a little bit of that's also of a nuanced type of area that you have to kind of think of. Some people, I mean, there's things out there that are words, and there's a reason why they're out there. They're just words, and people like to read them. But if somebody comes in and wants to ban one of those books that have some of that content in it, what are we going to say at that particular? Are we going to say, yes, you're absolutely right, let's start banning these books that have that type of thing? And I mean, the ALA and the library system overall is fighting against any type of book banning overall. So if somebody's coming to ban a book that has some of the content that you can actually watch, we would probably say no. But now because it's a graphic image, and kids have access to every single one of those books. So now it's kind of like one of these points. How do you figure out how to do all these particular things? And if I knew that those systems would stop every single image from coming through and wouldn't impede on anybody else. And if we actually didn't have it in the policy where we would turn it off for legal reasons, for me, that's one thing. You know, it's kind of like, okay, fine, you know, like, Mr. So-and-so, you don't have to be watching this, you know, particular thing, and then we're gonna stop you, but we're not stopping them because they still can't. And, you know, you said, would somebody really go up and ask? I have a funny feeling, it's just my gut, so I'm going by, that if they're willing to come in here and do that anyways, they're probably not gonna have that much of an issue going up and asking to.
No, we had people were doing it, and when we put the filters on, they don't ask, they don't come in.
But
don't
if
ask.
they do ask, then I think then it would
They
be like
do, but
more
they don't.
proactive, that the staff would be like, oh, how would you like this screen? And if they take it, great. If they don't, staff kind of knows, and you kind of know someone's sitting over here doing something. It kind of makes the staff be able to be a little more proactive instead of someone rushing up to them, putting them in, you know, confronting them that someone's doing something they had no idea what was going on.
Well, and I think, I mean, we have policies for how a customer may request to have a book taken off the shelf. It is a very, you know, they have to read the book, they have to, you know, we have a very strict policy, which is in keeping with ALA, which is in keeping with the state of Illinois. If I'm reading words on the computer and people walk by, they don't know what words I'm reading. We're talking about moving visual imagery, which I think is different. And we're talking about a very specific thing. I don't know about the slippery slope even in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, just with that, it's like a public place, like, would you put billboards of pornography in the library? I mean, like, versus like a book, like, I think that's where it's like, if someone can see it versus reading it, like, I see what you're saying, I respect what you're saying, I just don't quite see the same, like, it's public, it's a public area, if you pop up like a movie and start playing it, that's pornography, it's like, that's kind of different than like a book, so.
I just get back to that, and I gotta tell you, I'm not, if we had to vote right now, I'm not sure how I would vote. I really don't. Everything everybody's saying, I get where you're coming from. I think we just have to make sure that we are doing this. And I have to apologize, I think it is a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction to a couple of people that have complained, and they've got the right to complain, and they should have, do. I didn't talk to many people, but I talked to a few people about this, and I had a couple people just get on me about, don't you dare do that, you know, because of the whole First Amendment. I had more people that I talked to that you know, were basically sure, you know, it makes sense, you know, my kids shouldn't have to do that. And as a dad, you know, I wouldn't want my little kids to be able to do that. We just have to make sure we do have a lot of policies. We have a lot of great policies that if somebody starts doing something, we're going to interact. And we're going to think we've got a great security system. We've paid 1% more to the cost last year because it is a great security system. Security team, you know, that takes care of us. We've got a lot of things that are in place to make sure it is a slippery slope. Because once you start, and sometimes you have to start, not only think about what's going to happen right now, how is it going to affect other things coming down the line? You know, does this, because you start doing this, make it easier for somebody to say, hey, wait a second, you know, you're doing this, now we get back to the full book thing, you know, you've got, you can shake your head and say no, but at the same time, the possibility exists. And it's always going to be there, and you've got to think about, you know, exactly where you're going to go and where it's going to go to from here.
But then don't we handle those on an individual basis? If some hypothetical comes up, then we just deal with what that is?
You do, but you have to be, and this is something I've always said about any type of discussion that's like this. You have to be prepared to be able to take care of those. You have to be able to understand that this is what you're putting yourself into. Because whenever we make decisions around this table, we're not the ones that have to interact with them. We're not the ones that have to put them out there. The whole staff Mike and everybody else has to want to do it. We get to basically walk away, from it. So what are we putting them into? But having said that, I'm still not sure exactly how I would vote if this vote came.
Well, Jen, did you have something else?
I will just say one more thing. So to the point about, becoming known as the library that allows porn. I think with all due respect, I see it the other way. I see it as we could be the library that doesn't censor the internet or doesn't filter the internet. And you might say like, well, that's just, the same thing turned the other way. I don't see it that way. To me, there's nuance there. So, again, I respect everyone's opinion. I completely understand where everyone is coming from, but that's just something that really stuck out to me.
Thank you, Carol.
I would like to hear what our executive director feels about it. We're all talking, but as you said, it's the staff that has to handle it. So
Yeah, I think there's a lot of very good points on both sides of this argument, both at this table and argument or discussions that we've had with the staff. For every one staff that feels strongly one way, we have another staff that feels strongly the other way. Just simply looking at the interaction with the staff to address, that question, I think it would be an easier, it'd make it easier on the staff if it was filtered, because our staff would not have to go in and, talk to somebody that's looking at pornography and say, I'm sorry, you can't do that. It would be probably more proactive to have the filters, because then when they do ask to turn them off, that does give the staff the opportunity to say, can you put this filter on? I do have some concerns about the slippery slope, that, we are kind of setting a precedent, but libraries have been filtering for years now. And I think the filters have actually gone the other way. They've gotten much better and more focused on these specific topics. And that's really where these categories come into play. Like we wouldn't want to see that creep. And I mean, you could almost put like an ejection clause in this policy. Like if it starts to creep, we just pull the policy and say, okay, we're not going to do this anymore. But I have the same concerns that you guys have on both sides of the table. And I'm trying to represent, all of the staff and understand what's best for the library. I think if we were the first ones doing this, it would be a very different conversation. I wouldn't want to be the ones following the script. But seeing that so many of our peers are doing this and doing it successfully, I've talked to a number of directors and staff that manage this, and it does seem to not cause major issues that we might think. If we were to start filtering. But that said, I feel pretty strongly about the First Amendment, and I feel that we need to protect it as much as we possibly can. This being an infringement on the First Amendment is up for debate. There's the obscenity topic. Is pornography obscene or is it not? And there's tests to determine, that. There's also a court case that ALA took this to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said that this is okay. This is in line with the First Amendment because we can turn off the filters. So there are things like that playing in my mind. It's really, I'm kind of in the same boat as Greg. Like, I don't know which way I would fall on this right now. Just hearing both sides of your argument, you're all right in everything that you're saying, and all the staff I've talked to have all been right. I think, I think with filtering and being able to turn them off easily, reducing that, eliminating or I mean, there's still a barrier for customers if they come in and they want to look at something that's blocked. There is still a barrier that, they have to ask. But it does give our staff the opportunity to go at it in a proactive way and say, use this physical screen and maybe even have a conversation before there's a embarrassing situation or a situation that they're trying to backpedal out of, or have to involve security or something like that. We still do have our code of conduct that, if it's offensive behavior, if they say, no, I'm not going to use this physical screen, they continue to bother people around them or something, then, I mean, we can and will take action on that. So it's not a free for all there, and it doesn't happen all the time. I mean, it's once every 1 mile. So I don't know if that helps, but.
Well, and I don't think it's an easy question for any of us. I mean, we've all wrestled with it. We all believe in the First Amendment and we all believe in free and equal access. We all, against banning libraries. But I think, in my estimation, this is the right thing to do for our community at this time. I mean, it's not an easy issue. We've all wrestled with it, and I think we've all talked to a lot of people, staff, non-staff, and done research. So.
Yeah, and just to me personally, I don't look at it as right and wrong, and I was saying the right thing or the wrong thing, and I think what everyone said is totally valid. Everyone said, I don't think it's right versus wrong. I think based on the education and what we know about the legality and what others have done and what we can do, and because we can turn the filter off, to me, it just seems like the best option, not the right option.
I didn't mean, I meant right for our community. What I mean is like the best thing for our community at this time.
Yes, I don't want anyone to think that I think that I'm right. I think that everyone's right. I don't think that it's right or wrong. I think it's.
The word choice that I used was not the best option right now. Yes.
Yeah, just a kind of final thought on, initially when this came up, I really was like, no, it's the First Amendment, this is an ALA issue, like, it wasn't even like, I had many conversations that turned, because I was like, no. And then I appreciate staff and Mike bringing all of this information and really learning. I realized how much I didn't know, and I was quite ignorant to the topic. So, lots of court case research. And so, again, however we go, I really do appreciate the different opinions and the information that staff brought, because that was very comprehensive and really helped me understand the issue much broader than I initially did.
Andy, I apologize. I've been a little spicy tonight. I'm just like, I respect all of you so very much. And again, like, we all have really great points. And there isn't a right or wrong. There is I'm struggling with this too, to Greg's point, and to, Mike's too. Like, I see it both ways. I did talk to a constituent who originally was like, oh my God, this is happening at the library, and they actually commented like, well, I know one of the board members. And so they actually, we had a long conversation, and because I wanted to at the same time, like, I've been through this, we made a different choice last time of just letting it be and making sure that our policies regarding, behavior in the, library and those other things surrounding it supported staff. But in this particular, conversation, while they didn't like the fact that somebody could, they also didn't want to have potentially an opportunity, have anything filtered that, that would start leaning into that whole like banning information. Which I was really surprised, because during that conversation, we kind of like walked through it and talked through it, and I was surprised where they land. I happened to talk to 2 staff members today. Both were like, I really hope you guys don't put a ban in, like, you don't put a filter in. My understanding from staff is it is just a couple of people, and typically they will as they walk in, they'll ask for a filter. That doesn't make any of this feel comfortable and feel good, but I also am just really leery about where is that line in the sand and how easily can it be shifted.
And if I can
Yeah, go ahead, Jen.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Just one other thing that I think, like all of you, we're all wrestling with this. I am too. Just one other thing that is just kind of eating away at me a little bit. It really feels like this was honestly at its core one person. I know several people showed up to our meeting, and we received emails from 1 or 2 people, but it really seems like only one person was like personally affected by it. The other people were more like, oh, that person told me and now I'm offended on their behalf. Which, okay, there's something to be said for that, but I don't know. At the end of the day, I mean, I can't see in the room. Is anyone there right now?
Yeah.
So, and I mean that, again, that doesn't make it right or wrong, but just from a community perspective, it's like, is this as big of a deal as we're making it? I don't know. Again, it's something to wrestle with. This is just, this is
Yeah.
rough.
Well, I understand that. However, people are busy. I don't know that we can make an inference about how our community necessarily feels, based on who comes to a meeting, or I understand that. I do, I mean, I've talked to a lot of people have talked to me. And again, I don't think that, I think we should make a decision either way tonight. Like, we're not gonna get any more new information. We're not gonna make everybody happy no matter what we do. Some people will disagree with our decision. And that's part of being a leader. Like, they're gonna disagree whichever way we choose, some staff, some public, some, friends. I guess the question is, do we want to, it appears that we're between not changing the policy at all or filtering. So I am wondering if anyone.
I'd like to just say
Yeah.
one thing, if that would
Yeah,
be okay.
sure.
I'd like to kindly disagree with you. When we had the pride flag in front of us, people made time to get here. We had hundreds of emails. So if this was really that pressing, people will figure out how to show. So, like, while we have had some people talk to
Yeah.
us, but they're not here. They haven't sent us emails. Maybe they sent privately to you, but I've not, like, I think I got one. So, like, I'm not trying to belate the issue, just that, like, I don't know that that's true. And, yeah, I think we're stuck in what we want to do here.
Well,
So on the flip
part
side,
of why, this is an old argument.
Absolutely.
The pride flag was not. But there's been these discussions for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
And,
Well, and I also think churches, both for and against, sent out things to their congregations about the pride flag. That was part of it, and there
Yeah.
was newspaper coverage.
right, and the coverage in the news, yeah, that's, yeah.
But
and on the flip side, if we look at what we do as a board based on, how many people show up or don't show up. I mean, on the flip side, maybe it goes under the radar, no one even cares, and we just make the change, and, that could be
Mhm.
a side effect too. Positive or negative, depending on how the person views it.
There's been a lot of discussion. What's the next step?
Well, if there's a motion, I would take it.
So for the motion, okay, so I move that the Board of Library Trustees adopt the proposed revisions to policy 6.003, internet access.
I second it.
There's a motion on the table and a second. Any more discussion?
Can
No.
I just be very clear about, so if there's a yes vote, we vote to filter. And if there's a no vote, essentially it's leave things as is, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
The policy it should be in your packet or in the last.
yeah, the policies.
We changed
stand
order.
where it changes to, yeah, okay. Thank you.
Okay. And we don't take difficult votes on this board very often. We don't take votes that aren't unanimous very often, and I recognize that this is really difficult for everyone. And I think everyone has made some really good points, and you know, I think we just have to respect each other's opinions, and however this ends, we're gonna go forward and give the staff direction. All right, yeah,
Is there any way that, is there any other option? I don't know that there is, I'm just asking because.
well, right now we have a motion on the table,
Yeah.
so we have to vote. And, yeah, okay, may I have a roll, call, please?
Trustee Burrell,
No.
trustee Gala,
Yes.
trustee Kelly,
Aye. Yes.
trustee Meadow,
Yes.
trustee Rule,
No.
trustee Zick,
Yes.
president Smarty.
Yes. Okay, the motion carries. Thank you. That
Good
was
discussion.
difficult, but I think we gave staff good direction.
Now let's spend some money.
Yes.
Do we have other?
So,
No, I got the locker.
Lockers, I was thinking that was the other one. Okay, yes, all right, tell us about the locker.
I'm gonna put a motion on the table
Yes.
right now. The Board of Library Trustees authorizes the purchase of two 24/7 pickup locker systems to be used on the north and south ends of our community not to exceed $74,000.
Second,
Okay, discussion.
all right.
Is 74,000 enough? Because you said estimated, you know, is it?
I think it will be.
Imagine estimate,
Go
you
back to
think that you
Gallagher.
covered it?
Yeah, I incorporated the discount into here, so
Oh.
last time I didn't have the discount in there. And then, kind of just tighten the numbers up a little bit on installation and stuff. I think this will be fine.
I think this is an excellent idea. We have a long, narrow village and it's just giving greater access.
What is the timeframe? Like, when would it be? Did I miss that?
We order them in the next couple of weeks. They would be, I think they said 8 to 12 weeks, lead time, plus we have to do the build out. I'll be bringing back an IGA, to work with the Park District to set all that in place. So it'll be a couple months.
Okay,
Probably fall.
By fall.
follow, you think? Roundabout. Okay, thank you.
And then,
Yes,
Mike, is this, thanks. Is this going to be, paid for through the gift that was given?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, right. We still want to talk with Gallagher, and we're waiting for some communication back and forth with them, but so we could either use the gift of $90,000 that we had received. We'd only use 74,000 of it. Or if Gallagher comes in and says that they want to sponsor him, we'll absolutely, we would use that first.
Okay. Thank you.
Where is that gift money booked right now?
Well,
Yes, or,
I assume it is. Tracy would
Yeah,
be better
right,
to
okay.
answer that.
So we have it. All right, any other discussion?
Let's get a quick question again. You had mentioned when you were talking over the check register, there's this quick delivery service that you said picks up a lot of things. I'm just curious, are we gonna have them be putting stuff in there, or is that gonna be staff that's gonna?
It'll be staff.
Okay.
So it would be probably staff in the bookmobile department that would, we have the van that we driving around, loading these, and likely do the book drops as well, and we would get away from the third party service.
So are there going to be, besides the 74,000 for the initial investment, are there gonna be any other costs, just
We
day-to-day
would,
costs?
we plan to use the staff that we currently have. We're short-staffed in the department right now, which is why we're using the delivery service. If we were to add additional hours for doing the pickup and drop-offs, that would be brought to you in the budget proposal for next year. But no, there's no staffing addition for doing this.
All right, anyone else? All right, may I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Burrell,
Yes.
trustee Gala,
Yes.
trustee Kelly,
Yeah,
trustee Meadow,
Yeah.
trustee Rule,
Aye.
trustee Zick,
Yes.
president Smarty.
Yes. All right, Now other, is there any other?
I don't have any other.
No other, anyone else?
Let's get a quick comment, I'm sorry.
No, you go first, then Jen, I'll get you.
Oh, okay. Looking through the grapevine, my favorite Monday thing. One of the things I just I looked here and all these sessions that we're having for the financial planning basics and everything. I don't know about in the library, but I know there's a lot of other, organizations that don't do things like that. So I just want to commend us for doing those. And the one that's navigating the next chapter, preparing for retirement, that's on Tuesday, June 18th. I'd like to sign up for that, just so everybody knows. But no, I think that's a great, thing that we offer. So thank you. And thanks for pointing that out in the grapevine too.
Jen?
Well, I would just like to end on a very positive note, with, noting an interaction that I witnessed, at the library yesterday. Was yesterday Monday? I don't know. I pulled into the parking garage and parked, and when I was getting out of my vehicle, I noticed someone I recognized from the circulation staff talking with what appeared to be a customer behind their car and like gesturing. And I'm pretty sure what was happening was the customer had a question about the vehicle sticker. And it looked like this person from the circ staff actually accompanied them to their car in the garage to help them figure out maybe when it expired, or I'm not sure exactly what was going on, but just amazing, outstanding, above and beyond customer service. So just wanted to call that out.
That's great. And after the last cow, but it feels like it was a couple of weeks ago, Trustee Kelly and Trustee Zick and I attended the volunteer reception, which was amazing that these people have spent so much time volunteering for the library. And, people that have volunteered here 25 years, and our volunteer winner, our volunteer of the year was wonderful.
Gwen Adams.
Mhm.
Gwen.
Adams. So that was just a really nice night, and it was very well done by staff with the goodie bags that were locally sourced honey, and a band and good food, and it was a really nice evening. So I'm glad we do that for our volunteers as well. All right. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn the Board of Library Trustees on Tuesday, May 21st, 2024 at 9:07 p.m.
Second?
Second.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Thank you.